think the highlight has been realizing how good it feels when you make content about that actually makes someone else feel good that you don't know.
Whoa. Have you hit that subscribe button? If not, what are you waiting for? Do it.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Total Sport video, and today we are joined by a very, very special guest, someone who has been in the videos recently. I saw one of your videos actually pop up on my recommended yesterday, James.
It's a miracle.
I know. And we are joined by Mr. James Allcott. If you don't know him, captain of XO in the Wembley Cup, makes great content, QPR, that sort of stuff, and also I had a decent podcast, The Process, as well. How are you, mate?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
I'm good, and I'm excited to talk to you. We've had some influencers on already, like Big Blue Van Man. If you haven't seen that video, it'll be in the link and all that sort of stuff. But first off, James, mate, we'll just start this off with where did your love of content creation and basically what you do now begin? What was the route into it for you?
The route into it for me. I guess a love of sport maybe more than anything else. Growing up, I think people are more aware that they're creative now than they were when I was growing up. It wasn't just, I think I was just generally quite, I guess, playful, and loved sport. And then I was trying to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with my life. At one point it was acting, and then I got a bit self-conscious about that when I hit about 18 for some reason. And then, but then it was kind of sport and coaching. I loved coaching. I loved being sort of captain of sports teams and things like that, kind of quite gobby on a sports field. So I kind of was like, oh, maybe I could do that. And so I went to uni and did sport development with coaching. And that was, again, kind of highlighted my love of sport. But my mum had always said, you know, I can see you on one of those things, like whenever we're watching the football. And I just kind of didn't take notice of it. But then when I finished uni and then I went traveling, and there's a lot of I went around South America, and there's a lot of long bus journeys that you go on where you have 15 hours where you just need to sit there and listen to something or whatever it might be. And so I found myself kind of writing and just thinking of ideas, and like I've always quite enjoyed sort of writing, not jokes, but sort of comedy stuff as well. And so all of those things kind of started to kind of come together and bubble together, and just having a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do now that uni was done, which is very, very, very scary time for a lot of people, where you think, oh, maybe this is a good choice for a course, and then you get halfway through it and like, I don't really see myself in this. So all of that kind of conspired to get me to a place where I was like, yeah, no, I think I'd quite like to be creative and make stuff around sport. And so from there, you then kind of just try and find a way in, try and find a way to kind of be around the people that seem to be doing that kind of stuff. And so I was very, very, very fortunate that I was able to become a runner at the building that hosts the bulk of ITV's output, but Graham Norton's show and Alan Carr had a show back then, all that kind of stuff. But also they had a sports channel called Al Jazeera Sport, which is now beIN Sports, but they used to host it in London. And anyway, because I was probably the only person with a sporting kind of background, I guess, that wanted that job, because everyone else wanted entertainment, I got so lucky and got that job as a runner. So I was able to get my foot in the door and get that runner's job at Al Jazeera Sport or ITV, you know, that building. And from there, you're in, and you've got a chance to kind of navigate your way through working life and seeing, you know, what's the best way to get ahead, I guess, which is I guess is another question. But that was it. Once I was in, then that was great. But I guess there are little things that the further down the road you get, you look back and go, oh, okay, that's why I was either able to do something or wanted to. But yeah, I think I've always kind of had and meshed together in the middle, really.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So prior to be getting into the YouTube game, shall we say, James, you actually had a cheeky spell at Good Morning Britain, as I saw on your LinkedIn profile. So let's have a chat about that. What happened there?
So I well, I mean, that's just funny, isn't it? Like you see it as a little snippet on my LinkedIn. It was like 5 years of my life.
Yeah.
That's very. So I started. When you're in TV, the idea is you go from a runner to a junior researcher to a researcher to a producer to a senior producer. That's the kind of route. And the quicker you can move up a title, the quicker you can make a little bit more money, and your life can be a little bit better. So I was very lucky that I was able to kind of go. I was sort of going around doing different running jobs at different shows, and then knew enough people at ITV from that initial running job to get a job at Daybreak. It was then. So there was Adrian Charles, you might remember, Christian Bleakley, Frank Lampard's wife now. I guess more people know her for. But they were kind of hosts of this show that they put a lot of money into and expected it to be really good and successful, and it wasn't at all. And so I kind of was able to sort of see the drama of that, I guess, unfold. And in my own career, kind of moved my way up from, like I said, a runner to a junior researcher to a researcher to a producer. And after about 2 years, I sort of started to work with the entertainment guy there. There was a guy called Richard Arnold, very, very funny guy who, so it was perfect for me. I was able to kind of me and him were able to just mess about on red carpets or on behind the scenes things, going to interview everyone you can imagine, really, which was amazing at the time. And then Good Morning Britain sort of became a thing. I think they were trying to kind of claw back the ratings when it comes to that battle. That's quite a sort of well-known thing within TV, where your breakfast show is quite important. And obviously we've seen that a lot more with the likes of Piers Morgan and what he's brought to it. But initially it wasn't as, what's the word? Over the top or hyperbolic as it, or clickbait as it kind of maybe is now. But I sort of worked on the launch of Good Morning Britain, which was with Ben Shepherd and Susanna Reid, and so it was interesting. Do you know what? It was, I guess the one thing I would say with it was that it was a show that at the time when it first started, people were like, this is too much text, this is too much going on our screens. Whereas now we're all very, very used to having all that going on, and you've got a phone in your hand as well whilst you're watching all those three different things. So it was kind of before its time in that sense. And I think that's something that I've kind of kept in my mind as well, that sometimes you will be ahead, like you'll be ahead of the rest of the world. And I think that kind of, I saw that as I moved into working online. But yeah, it got to a point where I wanted to get back into sport. That was always the dream. And I couldn't see that happening. I'd had a few sort of presenting opportunities there, but then I'd kind of got pushed back into just the sort of researching side of it. So I was looking to kind of do a little bit more. So that's when I decided to leave. Yeah.
And then came Ball Street and so YouTube. Was it always something that you kept involved with when you were like growing into your TV roles? Was it something that you kept notice of, or was it just a completely new industry for you?
I think you started to see it a little bit. I think it was almost about, as much as it was about seeing YouTube as a platform that was kind of interesting and starting to watch those different bits and pieces, it was also as someone who was trying to be more skilled and get better to be successful behind the camera as much as on the camera. I started to see different people I was working with, and they were sort of multi-skilled. They were good at more than one thing. And the people that were kind of behind me, or I guess ahead of me and older, they didn't know how to shoot. They didn't know how to, well, I guess they knew how to direct a shoot, but they were used to going, can I have a cameraman and a sound man? And it was just given to you. Whereas now, like the idea of that is just sounds really exciting, but it just doesn't really happen. You've got to be able to kind of do a lot of stuff on your own. So I started to see that was happening. And then when I quit my job, to be honest, I was looking to try and get into, a Sky or a BT or something like that. But when I was trying to get better as a presenter, I realized that you need to just do stuff yourself. And so I was living with a few of my mates, and we were talking about football all the time. So I was like, can we just start a podcast so I can kind of get better at driving a conversation and understanding that, okay, whatever comes out of your mouth, I need to be able to kind of move it over here to someone else and sort of pass the ball, I guess. And yeah, I guess through all of that, I then started to kind of make content. And when you're making content, you want to put it somewhere. So you start to look at YouTube, and you started to see that as something, as a place that people were, I guess, congregating a little bit. But to be honest, it was only until I quit my job, and then I had a certain amount of money saved up, and I was like, right, I need to try and find a way to get into sport, that I realized that the jobs that were available, and like I was when I got offered the Ball Street job, at the same time, I was offered the job at 90 Min, who, you know, Ben Haynes is a good mate of mine, and we were going to work together. But it didn't happen because I had to choose between the two. But like anyone, you know, if you are going for a job, don't just focus on one job. Like, machine gun it. Get as many options as you can. Get as many people as possible going, yeah, come work for us, and then you get to choose which one you want to go to. So you're fortunate that I got offered the 90 Min job and the Ball Street job, and then actually 2 weeks after I took the Ball Street job, I got a call from Copper 90, who I'd gone and spoken to as well, who'd offered me a job as Poet and Voog's producer. So I guess Timsy, basically, I could have been Timsy. What a much better life I would have had if I'd been that. But yeah, so I kind of got offered all those 3 jobs within the space of, I mean, it took a bit of time to get those offers, but it over the space of 6 months, I guess. And so I guess that highlighted that there was starting to be this kind of move to YouTube, and people were starting to see that it's a much more engaging medium, and it's been proven to be that is the case, hasn't it, as the years have gone by?
Yeah, so let's have a chat to me about sort of your role at Ball Street, and then obviously the move and simultaneously with XO, and how that came about.
Sure. So Ball Street, for people who don't know, it's a football media company, but the sort of USP of it was that it had brought together lots of different football fan channels, and the idea was that it was trying to sell them as a collective, because you can be more influential if you kind of work as a collective. And so that's what Ball Street were looking to do. And so I came in to help build their own channel, which was, the idea of it was to be a bit of a hub for all the other channels as well, which was harder than we imagined. But yeah, so that was my role within it. I was the senior content director, so my job was to think about what we were going to make there. But because it was such a small company, I was also in front of camera throughout it, and then also when we got brand deals and worked, we did stuff that was white label, which means you're working for other companies for content that's not about Ball Street, it's about someone else, but all sorts of stuff. I was the kind of creative lead, maybe, on all of that stuff. That happened for a good few years, and it's quite a small world, the sort of UK, I guess, sports or YouTube scene. And so through that, you kind of know a lot of people through different bits and pieces. And as time went on, the guys at Ball Street looked to team up with the guys at XO, and in particular, Lawrence had a connection with us at Ball Street. He'd edited our Ball Street's video before I worked there, and he directed me, actually, and he'd always been ingrained in what we do, whilst not ever working with us exclusively. And anyway, long story short, XO were looking to try and get this kind of thing off the ground. They needed that little bit of help, that little boost to kind of get it off the ground in terms of money and things like that. And they saw it as a great partnership that could be really, really, really exciting. So Ball Street kind of moved in with XO and were in sort of, I guess, in charge to a point of trying to kind of get that off the ground and get it moving in the right direction, and trying to get the best out of those 4 guys. And so that's when Adam Boltwood came in and got involved, and was the lead of XO. And then my role kind of tweaked between initially just kind of keeping Ball Street moving, but then as time went on, getting a little bit more involved with XO as it moved towards, I guess, the Wembley Cup and things like that. And yeah, in the end, obviously it wasn't sort of sustainable in the way that it was. But it was good fun. It was good fun while it lasted. Yeah.
So what was it like working with the likes of Lawrence, of True Geordie, Stephen Tries, these creators? Did you learn anything in particular from them that you still take today?
Yeah, do you know, they're all very, very different in how they make content, what drives them to make that content. So, for example, Geordie's one of the best presenters. Presenting is very difficult in terms of like taking information and being able to articulate it out really kind of quickly and in an entertaining way. See, it's really tough.
Yeah.
I do remember that. I remember doing something for the Wembley Cup, doing a video with Brian, and thinking, wow, like, yeah, he's very good at talking, which sounds very base, but it's actually a very important skill that, yeah, I think Geordie's on a higher level than a lot of people. So I remember thinking that was really, really impressive. Geordie's also very smart about about marketing. It's very, very smart with that, and the understanding of that quality is king. If you look at his content, it looks fantastic, and it is fantastic. And there are times where he doesn't, as consistent as he is, there are times where he's not going to do a video, or he's not going to do the kickoff, or he's not going to do whatever it is, because he can't do it to the best of his ability. The quality might suffer in some way. And so his standards were always that. I always found that very impressive. And I've looked to kind of, from being at Bull Street, where it was like, how cheap can we do something a lot of the time, because you're such a small company. I kind of understand the worth in investing in yourself and equipment and things like that over the last year or so. It's definitely kind of, if you put that money into yourself and use it properly, it can come back round. So I definitely learned that from Brian. Stephen is just hilarious. Like, he's so talented, and writing comedy is not that easy to kind of keep doing it. So I think sometimes he gets a bit of stick for, not uploading as much as he could do, but he's actually finding a way to do that better now with the podcast and stuff like that, where he can just be funny for a bit. But yeah, no, Stephen's amazing. So I think very, very naturally talented in that sense. And so for him, I'm just really excited about big projects that he will inevitably come to. Like I have a podcast, which I'm, similar idea to Brian, where I've gone, well, if I can't get great people right now, I'm going to wait a second with COVID and everything. But I've had some really good guests on there. And Stephen was one where it was really interesting to talk to him about his ambitions. Like, something that when you're being funny a lot of the time, it's not something that you concentrate on, but he actually has all those elements to him. And so he was saying that he was kind of writing a sitcom and thinking of different things like that. And I'm really excited to see what Stephen does over the next few years in terms of putting together a sitcom or whatever he might look to do as time goes on. Because I think he's just hugely loved by the YouTube community. I don't think anyone's really ever got a bad word to say about him. And then Loz is visual, as a director, visually, he's on a different level to a lot of people that that I've worked with. Has an amazing eye for stuff. I did a trip around France with him, and we work quite well together, because he has that really amazing eye, and you kind of just want to let him go shoot stuff, like go do your thing. And I was able to kind of go, well, no, okay, what, we still need this line to be said, or something to kind of like fit it together, or just as simple as like, look, we need to stop now because we're going to miss the game. We're not going to get to that, because he's like working on this beautiful shot which will be amazing. But yeah, so I think you saw the talent of Loz in XO as well, which was really nice as a place for him to kind of express himself with the style that he has. And then Will's just so smart, and actually he's highlighted his creativity and consistency from, throughout the years, as he's just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And he's spotted Kieran Carlin first, who again is not first,
on the channel, friend of the channel, Kieran as well.
Oh, is he friend of it? Great, good. Yeah, good, Kieran's a legend. Yeah, and Kieran's again super talented. And Will sort of spotted that the importance of top quality edits and invests in that, and he's very smart when it comes to the algorithm and all those bits and pieces as well. So it's interesting. I think YouTube, in terms of being on screen, all four of them brought something really, really different to it. And so I think that's what really excited people a lot of the time about the channel, was the the possibility of what these four guys could do coming together. And I guess that's a real shame that we weren't able to kind of keep it going. But like the boys have, they have there's no ill feeling really towards each of them at all. They're just cracking on with their own thing. So it's all good.
So moving on, James. You got your own YouTube channel now. You're developing that, as well as being a presenter at the Premier League. So we'll just start off with your own YouTube channel. Was that something that was a natural development, really, from just going onto the camera? Because obviously you've been doing it before, and then now it's just sort of one of your regular things. Was that COVID brought, or was that just something that you always had in your mind?
I think that's always been the desire, has been that. It's just almost been the way it used to work was you kind of, before Twitter and numbers mattering, it was about you got into a TV company or production company, whatever it was, you worked your way up, and then there will be a moment where they go, oh, we're going to do screen tests for this job, like, do you fancy having a go? And then you're ready, and you do it, and you do well, and you're Dermot O'Leary or whoever, name a presenter. That's literally how it works. So I was kind of down that route, and then also you kind of start to think, well, look, as long as you don't know if these things are going to work out, in terms of being, you can only choose one person to be the presenter on anything. So it's a very difficult place to be in. It might be a place where you can't kind of last forever in it as well, as much as you'd like to. So I was always kind of like, well, I want to be able to have more skills than that, which weirdly, I guess the road of having that as a backup really worked with online stuff as time went on, because you were like, well, everyone over here is doing everything already. So that was kind of useful. But yeah, it was always the sort of presenting match of the day, presenting a World Cup final. Those are the dreams that have always been there and are still there for me. Like, I think that's the good thing about sport as well, is it's a long career. It's not like you're not a pop star where you kind of go away, you get your 3 years and then people are bored of you. I think with this, you can hopefully stick around. That's always been that's what I've been more excited about, the idea of having a long career instead of having just one where you go big for a second. So presenting was always the thing, though, because and that's, you kind of have a bit of an inner turmoil with that sometimes, where you go, why do I want to do that? Is that because I want to be famous or I want attention? And it's honestly, I now know, like, it honestly isn't that for me. It's more, I just really it's more of a FOMO thing. Like, I just want to kind of be there, and be involved in it. It's always that. So yeah, that was always the dream, has always been to present a World Cup final, and still is. So when it sort of came to be with doing stuff with the Premier League, and which again was one of those things where you do a screen test. We did a screen test with lots of different people, and it was great that I obviously did well in that one, but there's been screen tests in the past where it's not gone very well at all, and so you kind of have to kind of stick at it. And but yeah, it was great to get that one. But then you realize that, like, there's going to become times where you kind of like, you get one, or then it will go away, and then there'll be the next thing, and then the next thing. I think the important thing for anyone, I guess, who wants to do this, because I do get a lot of like tweets or whatever going, oh, I'd quite like to do this, like, what do I do? I think that's like, there are different stages of that career, but once you're kind of in there, that's the new stage that I've had to kind of figure out a little bit, is that you'll get some jobs and then you won't get other jobs, and you kind of have to just kind of stay on the stream and keep going, oh, okay, we're going to go over here for a bit, and then we're going to go over here for a bit. It's quite a long road. So, but coming back to your question, it's always, for me, is presenting has always been something I've absolutely loved and felt like I was quite good at. So I always wanted to kind of stick with it.
Absolutely, mate. And we'll carry on about sort of your YouTube channel itself and some of the podcasts you put out, because obviously you had the process. You said taking a break because of obviously coronavirus, can't get the guests you want. But in terms of that, what's been the highlight for you in terms of doing that? And who's been in particular one of the most interesting guests you've had?
I think the highlight has been realizing how good it feels when you make content about that actually makes someone else feel good that you don't know, like that they care. They're like, I really care about this. I really care about what you've just made here. It means something. It meant something to me. That's what I wanted the process to be, because I was kind of, I think a lot of guys in particular, I know a lot of my audience is male. Obviously I'm male, so I can kind of empathize with that kind of stuff a lot more. That was the idea of the process, was that, and still, and will always be, is to kind of zone in on something in particular and not be these too broader strokes. Because if you can kind of really dive into something and take someone to a particular moment, that's when we all go, oh, I've felt exactly like that. And then when you can offer up, when people can feel empathetic about something, anything, then they can understand it and then they can sympathize with it. And I think that's quite a important, powerful thing that isn't always, people don't really concentrate on a lot of the time. They're kind of being quick to like, oh, how can I be angry at you? Or how are you now the devil? Like all this, that kind of stuff. Because that's online content as well, where it's like, you know, clickbait stuff. You have to go to extremes, and like, look, I'm guilty in that as well, because, you know, like I'll do most of my titles, I'm thinking, right, what's the thing that's going to make them click it and stuff like that. So that all exists. But within the content itself, like if I always had that desire to do something that was quite grey. Like it was kind of looking at the bits of how people felt. And I'm really proud that with that, I think generally the people that come on it, they don't feel like they're in trouble. Do you know what I mean? They feel like they're in a space where I'm going to try and understand what they're saying. I'm not going to try and pick at something, you know, do you know what I mean? To kind of screw them over. So I'm really proud of that. And like the messages that you get when you make content, there's certain videos where you put out and you get comments and whatever you get, it doesn't mean anything, because you're kind of like, well, what am I offering the world here? Whereas the process, you know, most of them, to be honest, like the one with Chris Pajak right at the start was really special, because he was so open and in what he said and what he'd kind of gone through, which again, you know, he got turned into a meme, and that's like, people go, oh, that's just funny. Well, it's not funny. Like it was heartbreaking for Chris Pajak. Do you know, one of the episode of the process that understandably doesn't get talked about, but it's one that I've probably got as many messages on as anything else, was one I did with one I did about a guy whose dad had committed suicide, and I was very nervous going into it, because I wanted to get it right. I didn't want to screw up but on something that I didn't know much about. Obviously, like, you know, that hasn't happened to me. And it was great, because I was kind of honest in going, I don't know what this is like tell me what this is like. And a lot of people kind of got a lot out of that. People who didn't understand how it felt or did or had been through it, either side of it. You've obviously been around people that don't understand it. Paul McGregor is the guy who did that with, and I think that's on 4,000 views. It might be on 5,000. I haven't looked in a long time, but for the people that it did matter to, that's what makes you kind of feel great about it and gives you that kind of boost to kind of keep doing those things, just as much as, you know, a video about the Wembley Cup that goes viral, but it goes viral because it's gossip. It's not something like real. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I've been really lucky with the guests that have been able to get on it. I think each one's been really different. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen any of them. I'm always intrigued to know which one people like. Some people like the Spencer one. Other people like the one with, some people really love the one with Lawrence, where we kind of we're just waffling for a lot of it, I think. But then there are a few, nice moments in it. Geordie's one is great. The last one I did, which again didn't do very well in terms of views, with Johnny Nelson, who's just got the most amazing story about hanging in there, failing, getting up, going again, and he's got such a happy ending with his, where he was able to kind of become and also I think, like with his one, it's about, he panicked, and we've all done that. We've all panicked and failed, and we know exactly why we've failed, but he kind of kept you showed the grit to get up and go again and become world champion. It's like, you couldn't, like, it's a film. Like, I can't believe it's not been turned into a film yet. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I think the highlight is the series itself, because it is exactly what I wanted in terms of, zoning in on moments. And so, to pick one in particular is really, really tough. But I think, in terms of one that probably made the biggest impact, despite not getting any views at all, it's probably one with Paul McGregor, where he talks about his losing his dad to suicide, which is just obviously completely heartbreaking, but comes back to my point at the start of allowing us all to kind of go, oh wow, like if you actually zone in on not just stats of suicide and things like that. I don't know why I just did that, by the way. It's actually like you get to the human element of things, and that's when you can really feel something about anything. So that's probably that's why I'm very proud of that series as a whole.
And I think we had to save this bit till last. Captaining XO at the Wembley Cup. What was that like? Walking out on the hallowed turf at Wembley in front of a lot of people. How was that?
It was amazing. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I've got it. There's my shirts there, so you can tell I'm still kind of can't let it go. It was amazing. Do you know, the thing that I guess people don't know about it is I wasn't in the squad at all. XO just started, and there was a kind of idea. It was like, oh, how many kind of influencers can we get in here? And then, it got announced, and I thought, oh, this is happening, so I'll be in it because I'm part of all of this, right? And then it looked like I wasn't in it. And I said to Adam Boltwood, who was probably caught in between both, wanting to do what he wanted, but also, people above him going, oh, let's get, I think it was Steve-O the Madman was the guy keeping me out of the squad. And he's an amazing person, by the way. But like, it wasn't about that. But I was like, I remember saying to Adam, going, mate, I really I get what you're doing right here, right now, but this is big, like I please, like if there's any way I can get in this squad, like please put me in. So I really wasn't in the squad, but then I think Steve-O couldn't do it or something like that. And then, so I was able to get in. And then I generally kind of had to, because there was only a few of us. It was me and Boltwood doing the training for it and getting people together and all that stuff. And so we kind of got more and more involved. And then, to be honest, it was Brian who made the call. He was like, well, James should be captain. And I think, fortunately, you don't, when Brian says something, you just let him. That'll be the end of it. So yeah, I mean, I'll always be so grateful for Brian for allowing that to happen. But yeah, sometimes you kind of think about it and you go, why is this such a big moment for me? Because it was just a silly little tournament. But the big thing for me is like my dad had played at Wembley for Cambridge University, he'd captained them, and that was always something that was really big for him in his life and something that he was really proud of. And so I think just once the opportunity kind of arose, then you were just like, oh, this is well good. This is really exciting. So to be able to do it was amazing. We took it seriously, but we always had a certain amount of perspective and understanding that we were massive underdogs. So we just gave it a go. But I think that was the nicest thing about that, actually, as much as like doing it, you get the photo, like all that stuff, playing with Cafu, all that stuff is madness. But actually, I remember like in the evening, we went to a club at all of bars, just all of us, just all the lads. And just trying to dissect literally every memory that we kind of had from the 30 minutes of the game. I think that was nice as anything else, that it was a really nice bunch of lads, actually. And so it would have been so good if we'd been able to kind of sneak a win somehow, but we gave it a go. It was it was good fun. And oh God, I just wish I just wish it would come back. Like, I know there's been all this talk about the Wembley Cup and going, this is probably why we won't do it. I wonder if there's, there might be enough space and actually enough reflection of it now that the people involved, because I've done a few football tournaments like this, and where you're kind of behind the scenes as well as on it. And the competitive side, it's unfortunately certain people can't keep their awareness about them, and kind of they lose their minds a little bit. And I'm not concentrating I'm not talking about F2 here. I'm talking about a previous competition I did, one called Fan League, where you still saw that same kind of thing just like fly out of people's mouths, or especially blokes. When once it gets competitive, people's egos get involved and so on. But I think with everything that's happened, I think it could still, you could still have something like this and come out. Maybe I'm just trying to push it because I might have a chance to get involved again. But it's, I mean, look, it was amazing. It was amazing. That was the most enjoyable day I think I've had in YouTube. Just because, that's the point of life, isn't it? You're trying to kind of have some great moments and be it like little ones where you're having a giggle, or big ones where you get to walk out a team of your mates at Wembley in a fictional tournament. It doesn't really matter. It's like it's all about kind of having a good time whilst we're doing all this stuff. So I think that's it was amazing. It was really, really good.
I can imagine. It's just amazing that. And finally, just to finish off. So, if there was any advice you could give to a young James Allcott coming into the industry, doing some running at ITV, what would those words of advice be?
I would say, if it's like specifically me, great question. I would have said to myself, start a YouTube channel quicker, and care about it quicker. Often in a lot of things, especially work, you're waiting for someone to give you something. YouTube's one of the few things where you can have an element of control and push to get yourself moving, and then success kind of comes from that. For example, I hadn't been on YouTube over the summer because I'd started doing stuff on Twitch and really enjoying that, and so I kind of given myself that chance. But then I've got like I was saying earlier about investing in yourself. I'd spent a bit of money to kind of get a good setup where I'd be able to do things quickly, and I've started to put YouTube videos up again, and I've had I've had a good couple of weeks where for some reason the algorithm likes me this month and kind of put me out there. And it's amazing the kind of the method. You start getting texts from people that didn't really give a shit before. You start getting like all this stuff, and that all comes from you doing something yourself. So the advice I would have given myself was, I felt like I kept missing the boat a little bit, where like I didn't have I missed the TV boat because all of a sudden Twitter numbers mattered, and then I got to online and I kind of missed that boat because I hadn't started a channel early enough. And so there was that had kind of happened a few times. And I think if you see a sort of a gap in a market, like I would have said to myself, like, do it quicker, get there quicker, start quicker. And don't put that kind of pressure of it needing to be perfect, because you'll then just find excuses for yourself to kind of not do something. I think that would be the advice I would have said to me specifically. Would have been like, get over to YouTube quicker and try and back yourself a bit earlier. Because I think for a long time, in the way that I made content, it was always about someone else, because I kind of didn't really feel comfortable with it being about me. But I'm now kind of getting to a point where, you don't need to sweat it as much as that. Like, it's okay. Just like turn a camera on and go, I just had this thought about this, and here it is. See ya. Like that you can do. It can be as small as that, or it can be as big as you want it to be. But I think the important thing is that you're doing stuff and you're thinking about it. That sounds really obvious, but like, you can't just stand still. There's a lot of people that, when I was a runner right at the start, I think the difference that's allowed me to let this be, my job, is there's another guy who wanted to be a presenter, and then after 6 months I'd done a show reel and I had it there to hand, and so that I could give it, like, if someone asked, I go, yeah, I'll send you a link. There you go, bang. Whereas this other guy, he was like, yeah, I'm gonna. And it's too late. So you've got to start. You have to start. Like I've said that to that guy, messaged me on LinkedIn a little while ago and said, I want to do this, that. And he sent me a link of a video they'd done, and I thought he was good. And I was like, stop thinking about it. Just do it. Because the way the world works is, if you have something of value that can make someone else's life easier, they'll let you do it. So be it in front of camera, you need to be good. To be good, you need to have done it quite a lot. So you need the practice and the air miles so that when you get the opportunity, you take it because you're relaxed, because you've spent the last 2 years or 10 years trying to kind of get yourself to that point. But the same goes with editing. The same goes with graphic design. Like, it's like whatever it might be. Like, unless you've got the skills ready, then you can want something as much as you want. So to get the skills, you need to do it. So yeah, but very specifically, I would have said get over to YouTube quicker. That's what I would have said.
Absolutely, mate. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having James on the channel this morning. And when it goes out, obviously, we'll be tagging James on Twitter. Where can we find you, mate?
So I have a YouTube channel, the James Lawrence Allcott channel, ALLCOTT. I stream on Twitch most afternoons as well. And yeah, if you want to find me on Twitter, again, it's my name, James Allcott, ALLCOTT.
Yeah, go give James a follow and go give TotalSport a subscribe. We're so close to 1,000. I don't know whether we will be at 1,000 by the time this goes out. Who knows? But yeah, thank you very, very much, James. And yeah,
no worries, right.
We will see you all at home next time.